and welcome to Gangs All Here. My name is Ryan Sampson. That's our Jets beat writer, Brian Costello, and that's my guy, Frankie Vittorini from U Stadium. Today is Wednesday, April 8th. Fellas, we are just over 2 weeks away from the NFL Draft, where the Jets will be making 2 first-round picks, as long as they don't make any deals. At 2 and 16, draft hype and talk is at an all-time high right now, and I figured why not get you guys on here. Coz is releasing mock drafts, and we got to discuss it all in today's episode. But before we get to any of that, I'll start with Coz. How you doing? Are you recouped and recovered from your travels out to Arizona, and now you're back here in New York? How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm ready for the draft, Ryan. Ready to get here. I'm tired of talking about it. Ready for it to be here. Only 2 more weeks, but it feels like it's an eternity.
It does, especially when the Jets have such a premium pick at 2 and another one at 16. There's a lot of hype around it. What are they going to do? And this is Frankie's Super Bowl. So, Frankie, I'm sure you have different feelings about this.
I do. I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed in Mr. Costello here because, again, somebody else I'm not able to recruit to the Bailey Bros. I've been trying. Ryan already declined the invite months ago. It feels like nobody's taking me seriously with David Bailey. So, I mean, you know, it's a little disappointing. Now, hey, when it's all said and done, nobody knows which prospects are going to hit and which are not. It's like a stock, you know, it can go up or down, sideways, whatever. It's just chance. And obviously at this point, to be honest, guys, I've hit the point where like I don't even know, like looking at new players, I don't even know who's good or not anymore. Like I just, you know, when you keep looking at things and you start losing a little bit of perspective as to things that are important. Coz actually did draft a player that's right up that alley of someone that I keep going back and forth on. And at the end of the day, you just got to take a good quality player on the surface because that's really all you can bank on moving forward.
Yeah, and look, Coz, you might be able to fill us up in a little bit more on this process with the Jets right now. They're probably piecing together their final rankings and board right now at this point. And
yeah, they have meetings. I mean, every team is meeting this week, right? Every team does their draft meetings. Like if you text a GM right now, you're not usually hearing back until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night because they're sitting there, they're meeting all day and building the board. And the board is usually done probably like late next week, you know, usually like a week before the draft. They're finished with all the meetings and doing everything. And I think the 30 visits usually end this weekend. I'm not positive on this year's date, but it's usually like the about a week and a half before the draft itself. So they should have all their information in, and usually there's some follow-up calls. I remember, not to bring up a bad Jets draft memory, but I remember when they took Mekhi Becton, right? It came out Becton had failed a marijuana test at the combine that year. And I remember Joe Douglas said he spent a long time on the phone with him right before the draft, like the week before the draft, asking him questions about it and stuff. And so you do kind of follow up and, you know, it's kind of hammering down on character concerns, medical concerns, that kind of stuff right before the draft. And then, yeah, usually, you know, the best information about the draft is usually like the day before the draft. That's usually when stuff kind of starts leaking out and agents kind of know stuff. And that's usually when you can really kind of pin down what's real and what's not.
yeah, look, I think that's really the discourse right now for a lot of Jets fans is what's real, what's not real, considering you're seeing, you know, other podcasts, other draft experts and analysts and NFL insiders all trying to piece together clues and maybe give some hints at what the Jets might do it too. Because we all know, Coz and Frankie, right? Like Fernando Mendoza is going to go number 1. Unless something crazy happens, he will be the number 1 pick. So it all starts really with the Jets at 2 and what they want to do. And the debate and discourse is all about David Bailey at Texas Tech or Arvell Reese from Ohio State. Do the Jets take one of those 2 players, and who will they take? Well, guys, you know, this week we heard from Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager both say that they are hearing that the Jets would be on the David Bailey train, and that's where they might be leaning. Coz, there's no way the Jets can make that decision right now, right?
Yeah, I don't think the decision's made. And, you know, obviously Schrager and Jeremiah are doing their work. But typically what you hear this time of year is from somebody outside the organization. I know I've seen Jets fans going, oh, this is Muji putting up a smokescreen. Darren Muji's not the one telling those guys, like, oh, I'm going to draft David Bailey. Like, why would he do that? Like, even the smokescreen thing, no, it's a coach or an executive or a scout with another team. Hey, I heard this. I heard the Jets really love David Bailey. So it's almost third-hand information you're getting. And I talked to a coach yesterday. He told me they're going to take Bailey. And this is a coach with a different team. And I said, why? Why do you say that? He says, well, he's the cleanest prospect. He's cleaner than Reese. Like, it's just, so it's that kind of, he's using logic and he's guessing at who the Jets are going to take, but that's kind of the flow of the information right now is from outside the organization. So, no offense to like Schrager and Jeremiah, but nobody knows right now. Nobody knows. And it's all kind of guesswork. And you got a 50-50 chance of being right, I think. So, because I do think it's those two guys. I'd be shocked if it's anything other than those two guys. But that's kind of the way the information is working right now, is it's all really outside the organization.
Yeah, what's interesting too, before I go to you, Frankie, and I want to ask you this, Coz, is, I wonder how heated these debates can be. As we've seen, our friend and co-host here, Frankie Vittorini, loves going on other Jets podcasts and debating with other Jets fans on Reese versus Bailey. Do you feel like there might be similar conversations and debates going on in the Jets, draft war room right now on those two guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've said this, I feel like, a number of times this offseason, but like it's amazing that the Jets have the number 2 pick in a draft where there's not an obvious number 2 pick. Like almost always there's an obvious guy you take number 2, even if it's not a quarterback, it's Aiden Hutchinson or it's a Bosa,
Myles Garrett, I think,
somebody who's
Yeah.
Myles Garrett was the first pick.
Oh, first pick, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
But there's almost always an edge rusher or a quarterback that's like, yeah, that guy can't miss. It's a no-brainer. This year, there's nobody like that, and so it's an interesting debate for them to have and for us to have.
It certainly is. And I'll toss to Frankie here. Look, if it is David Bailey, how excited would you be that the Jets would make that choice with David Bailey?
I'd be ecstatic, man. I mean, he's the type of player that I think we've needed for a long time. And what I mean by that is just somebody who's mean off the edge. Somebody who, if the offensive lineman oversets, he'll go right over them or under them. If they underset, he's got the speed to close in on that pocket in literally less than 2 seconds. That's the kind of player that I just think separates us from where we are today and where we could be in 2 or 3 years, just having a player like that. Is he the cleanest on tape, especially against the run? No, he's not. Is he Myles Garrett? No, he's not. But is he the kind of player that, with his first step and his speed and his pure strength, the kind of guy that over the course of his career, I can't imagine him not putting together at least a few 14, 15, 16 sack seasons, assuming health. I just can't. Reese, the problem with Reese to me is I think we've gotten to a point where the idea of Arvell Reese is greater than the actual player that is Arvell Reese. I am not a fan, and I really never have been a fan of players that are tweeners. They can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They could play here, they could play there. I said this to you guys about, I don't know, maybe a month ago when we first started really diving into this stuff, a few months ago now. I think that, on a football field, it's about when the ball snapped, you can only play one position. And can you maximize your rep at that position? Yeah, Arvell Reese can spy the quarterback. Arvell Reese can drop into the flat. Arvell Reese can anchor against the run. All those things he can do better than David Bailey. But when it comes down to it, 3rd and 14 against the Kansas City Chiefs or the Chargers or whomever, the Broncos, you got to have someone getting in the backfield and putting pressure on the quarterback. And we really haven't had that. And I don't think Will McDonald's a good comp to say, oh, well, we have Will McDonald. Will McDonald's not a typical kind of edge player to me, so I don't compare the two. I just think it's apples and oranges. But I just want somebody, Ryan and Coz, I just want someone that's going to be able to consistently put pressure on the quarterback, scheme aside. I think Reese is going to require a lot of coaching, a lot of scheming him up. Look at what Matt Patricia did with him.
Well, he used him in the Joker role, so right? Like, he used him as his chess piece all across the defense, but it is a pro-style defense he was using him in, and it's a pro-style coach that he was coached by, and it's the modern way I think football is going right now, where you need these linebackers who could be super athletic, absolute playmakers, and wreckers in the backfield. And I can't emphasize this enough. Guys, the Jets are going to be playing some of the best quarterbacks and most athletic quarterbacks in the AFC. Josh Allen being numero uno, and not to mention Drake May can run as well. You're going to need a linebacker or a pass rusher that can absolutely get after those guys when they want to take off with their legs. That's something to me, Coz and Frankie. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like the Jets have been burned a lot when they play mobile quarterbacks. They've not been able to keep contained. They've had these guys that have been able to just kill them with their legs in those key situations.
Well, I'll say this. Again, you're right with your analysis. The question, though, becomes how do you solve that issue? If you're spying with Arvell Reese, right, he's not rushing the pocket.
Correct. I'm not saying
if he's rushing the pocket, Bailey's better at that. So, like, this conversation gets weird to me because, and you're bringing up the right points, actually, but the solution, I don't think, is what's he going to pass rush and spy at the same time?
No.
I mean, what is this guy, like Superman?
First off, the reason why he's not doing both at the same time, and Coz, I think you would agree with this. There's schemes and there's situations where you could tell your pass rusher, like an flexibility where, hey man, if you see that guard pass set and he moves his eyes, you go and you're getting after the quarterback, and it's almost like a blitz, but it's a delayed blitz. Also, at the same time, he might spy if he sees the guard's not moving on the interior, the tackles, the way they're pass setting. I could stay back and keep my eyes on the quarterback in case he wants to get out of the pocket. There's flexibility there with an Arvell Reese. David Bailey, I agree with you. I agree
with you, by the way. I just think it's easier said than done, but I agree. Sorry to cut you off.
But those are the skill sets, I think, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Coz, that the Jets might be super intrigued with from Arvell Reese.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I just think, I saw, Dane Brugler's The Beast came out today, which is an amazing piece of work by him every year. A lot of credit to him. And Arvell Reese is the #1 player in there, right? And it's just like, I don't profess to sit there and watch as much film as Frankie and study this stuff, but I kind of just go with the guys who are doing that and reading and stuff. And I just keep seeing, feels like Arvell Reese is the guy that has the highest ceiling, right, of anyone. And so I think the Jets, if they come down and go, we need the best player, who's the best football player in this draft, and they feel like that's Arvell Reese, he's the guy. I'm curious, Frankie, did you watch Bailey at Stanford at all, and why weren't his numbers as good at Stanford earlier in his career than they were in 2025 at Tech?
So I have only seen selected clips from Bailey at Stanford. I did not watch full tape. Bailey was playing a little bit part-time at Stanford early on. He was a DPR at times, a designated pass rusher. As he started to get more of a hang of things in the run game, they did put him in run situations a bit more. He didn't really become a full-time edge or outside linebacker, quote unquote, until he went to Tech. Sanford, it took him a little bit, but Coz, out of high school, Bailey was very highly touted and actually went to Stanford for educational reasons. His family they value education highly. His brother went to Harvard, etc. Someone ripped me before that. It's like, what does it matter? His brother went to Harvard. I'm like, the point is, the character concerns. It comes from a family that's very based in wanting their kids to be highly educated. Regardless, that's another convo. But Bailey, he wasn't playing that much, but he did increase his totals, Coz, every year. 2.5, 5, 7.5, 7, then 14.5. But he wasn't playing as much at Stanford. And he was a little bit to them. I was reading something early on. They didn't want him in the trenches. They really wanted him to be this outside designated pass rusher. And because of that, he really, that's his strength, obviously.
I'm curious if Frank Reich, having been at Stanford last year, obviously they weren't there at the same time, but there has to be some people at Stanford that were there with Bailey, and I wonder what kind of intel he's getting for the Jets on Bailey from the folks at Stanford.
I didn't even think of that. That's a good point, though. Yeah,
it's definitely something that I'm sure that they're doing their due diligence on, and they're probably trying to figure out for Bailey's background as well, like Coz highlighted at the beginning of this episode. So let's dive into Coz's Mock Draft 3.0 because you did put Arvell Reese there for the Jets at number 2 overall. I know Frankie's not loving that. I love that. I think I agree with you, Coz. I love Dane Brugler. I love the work he does. I agree with him. Like, this guy has the ceiling. He has the ceiling that you could be like, man, if we can unlock it and get creative with him schematically, this guy could, not saying he will be, but could be Micah Parsons. So why Micah Parsons?
I also think defensive coaches that I've been around love chess pieces. They love guys. They love scheming up for guys, Frankie. They love it. And so I could just see Aaron Glenn being, I'm not saying I know this. I'm saying I'm trying to think like Aaron Glenn. I could see him just being like, oh my God, the things I could do with this guy, moving him around. Glenn loved, Brian Branch, being able to move him around in Detroit. And I've covered a lot of defensive coaches through the years, and they all seem to love that part of it. So I could just see him being very into it.
Imagine Rex Ryan if he had the opportunity to draft Arvell Reese.
Yeah. It'd be a fun toy for him to use. Previously, you had David Bailey as your last pick. So why the flip for you?
Yeah, I just try to keep these mock drafts interesting. You could sit there and do the same thing every week, to be honest with you, so you got to move things around. I just try to see like what different scenarios, and I do not know who they prefer. I'm not saying I sit here, I know Reese. I'm trying to think like them, and when I do that exercise, I come up with Reese, but other people are saying Bailey, including, I told you, another coach told me he thinks they're gonna take Bailey. So it could be, but I just I like to keep it different. I think I do 5 of these every year. The last one is the one I'm trying to predict correctly. That's the one I'm trying to get right. The other ones I'm just kind of, hey, what if they did this? This might be interesting if they tried this. And there's only so many things you can do at number 2.
100%. And look, if you are watching this episode of Gangs All Here, you can obviously read and look at Coz's Mock Draft 3.0 and his other mock drafts on New York Post Sports Plus. Subscribe, get all the content from Coz and all the other NFL writers we have. We have a lot of draft content that obviously is coming out here. Let's go to the next first round pick. It's not 16. Frankie, Coz decided to trade up from 16 to 10 to get the player who I think Coz thinks might be actually the best player in this draft.
Wow.
Caleb Downs, safety from Ohio State. So he has the Jets trading number 16 overall and their second round pick, number 44 overall, to the Bengals in exchange for the 10th overall pick, and they take safety Caleb Downs. Coz, why that trade up and why Caleb Downs?
Man, I love the player. This is a guy this is my draft crush. Like, I love Caleb Downs. I think he's the best player. He's just so dynamic. Going back to Alabama, I saw quotes from him from Nick Saban recently about him, like saying he's like the smartest player he's ever had, and like he was praising him like crazy praise from Nick Saban. So I think they added Minka, who obviously a nice piece back there, but I'm not buying that Dane Belton and Malachi Moore are locked into the other safety spot. Go out, get another dynamic player. You get 2 Ohio State defenders there, and turn Aaron Glenn loose. You jump the Dolphins, who I think are a possibility for Caleb Downs at 11. So that's kind of why I looked at 10. And I just, I think you're getting 2 top 10 picks, and your defense is rolling.
Yeah, look, this would certainly revamp this Jets defense when you're taking, if in this scenario, Arvell Reese at 2, Caleb Downs at 10. Frankie, what do you think about the move up and the selection of Caleb Downs?
All right, so when I first read this from Coz's mock, I was like, you could have moved up a little bit higher maybe, but that's not necessarily always true because you're in the top 10. 16 and 44 does get you around there. But I was thinking, you know what? That's a brilliant idea, Coz. I love this idea.
Wow.
You know why? Yes. I really like the idea. You know what? In this draft, there's like 8 to maybe 10 guys that we can all sit in a room and confidently say are going to be starters, and potential all pros at like some premier level in the NFL that we can confidently, if we had to put our livelihoods on the line, we could maybe get to 8, maybe 10. Caleb Downs is for sure one of those players. No doubt about it. I was doing some digging after Coz had made that trade and sort of looked in. I mean, Caleb Downs started as a true freshman for Nick Saban's Alabama defense and led the team in tackles and was first team all SEC. I mean, Caleb Downs, and I love the first thing Coz said about him being smart, and that's what Saban brought up. That's exactly what Caleb Downs is. He's a brilliant safety, and you could play him in a multitude of spots. The only concern with Caleb Downs, in my opinion, it's not the size. I know people have brought that up. What if Bob Sanders was small? You could be smaller as a safety. You're not a corner necessarily. The one thing with Caleb Downs that I'm not concerned with as a player, but concerned with as a landing spot for him is where they're going to play him. A lot of teams like to run those too high shells and like to run those safeties a little bit deep. I would rather Caleb Downs stay in as much like the intermediary or middle part of the field as possible, just because he's able to sniff things out and he's a missile all over the place. So that would be something that would be just something I would look into if you're bringing him in, and make sure that your defense is not ready to just make him, your too high shell safety or your default, strong that's playing some robber. Like I would do a little bit more to get him up there on the line of scrimmage. At times also blitzing him off the edge. I mean, that's the kind of guy Caleb Downs can become. And you come at it. I mean, listen, I'm not into Reese at 2, but let's just say you take Reese at 2 and you end up with Reese and Downs or Bailey and Downs. You're not going to get 2 better quality players for your defense in those 2.
No, you won't.
I mean, that's as good as you'll get.
It's as good as you're going to get, and I think this would be an absolute home run in this scenario if the Jets were able to pull this off, Coz, especially the fact that they have that second round pick that you used to help trade up and get to that number 10 spot. If Downs were able to fall there and the Jets were being aggressive and they wanted to get the guy that they love, just like Jeremiah Love from the Jets. Look, let's move on to the second round. Now that Coz has done this trade up, there's only 1 second round pick here. You give the Jets an offensive playmaker in Denzel Boston at 33 from Washington. Why Denzel Boston for the Jets, and what did you like about him here for the Jets at this pick?
I think he's a nice compliment to Garrett. I think they need a big body guy, a nice, red zone target, just a big dude. Is I think what they're missing on this. I think A.D. Mitchell can provide a speed element, and now he's going to be another year, a full year in the system. So I actually had taken Boston in one of the previous mocks at 16, but now it looks like he's lost a little steam, and he could be there at 33. So I don't know. I just think he's a good fit for what the Jets need right now.
Frankie, you hyped up with Denzel Boston's a New York Jet?
At 33, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for him. He is that compliment, like Coz is saying, to someone like Garrett. He would sort of. I'm curious how A.D. Mitchell fits into this, but who really cares at this point? If you're drafting Denzel Boston at 33, let him kind of figure his way into being, wide receiver 3. I will say Denzel Boston, when I first started watching his tape, I was getting vibes of Tet McMillan to a degree. He's got a little bit of Tet in his game. Now, I sometimes get a little bit I get more excited, when I have receivers that are sort of the Mekhi Lemon types or JSNs that are getting in and out of their breaks underneath and causing chaos for linebackers to figure out where they are, and safeties, and they're getting a bunch of yak. Denzel Boston isn't going to give you that, but he'll give you the things that might even matter more, which is, a premier red zone threat, somebody down the field, someone that you can really just throw the ball up to and he goes and gets it. Can he be as good as Drake London? Probably not. But could he be on the same trajectory as a Tet McMillan? Maybe a little bit lesser, but on that trajectory for sure. And we need a player like that, man. We haven't really had a receiver that's been a real big body threat for us on the outside. That was, a stud for us in years, it seems like. So it'd be nice to have, especially in MetLife, cold weather. You kind of need those kind of guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Jets would obviously be adding another body into that wide receiver room. Remember, if you guys actually look back at the previous couple of drafts here in the second round, there's been some notable names taken in the second round that, even though, like, let's say Denzel does fall into the second round, don't get discouraged if the Jets don't take a wide receiver at 16 or if they trade up to 10 and do like the Coz's scenario. You look at some of the names here, like Jaden Higgins made a pretty solid impact for the Texans last year. 2024, if you look in the second round, Ladd McConkey was in the second round. Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell was a second-round pick. You look at 2023, you had Jaden Reed, who went to the Packers. Rashee Rice went to the Chiefs. There are notable names that you can find in the second round that can make an actual impact on your team.
The problem is if you do this exercise with the Jets.
You want to go to Elijah Moore, Coz?
No, I was actually thinking of another Denzel.
Waiting.
Denzel
Mims. Thinking of another Denzel Mims. Do you want to talk about Devin Smith? Do you want to talk about Stephen Hill? Yeah, they did take Wesley Walker in the second round, but that was before you guys were born. So it's second round receivers have not worked out very well for the New York Jets.
T. Higgins, he was the first pick in the second round for the Bengals back in 2020. Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you guys, but like the Jets got to hit on one of these guys, right? Like they got to. They have to. They have to. It's like you would think. You take enough shots at the dartboard. All right, guys, let's move to the fourth round now because the Jets don't have a third round pick thanks to the Hassan Reddick trade. Really appreciate that one. We got 2 picks in the fourth round. I'm going to go over both of them here. We have pick 103 and pick 140. At pick 103, Coz has the Jets taking another offensive weapon and Justin Jolly, tight end from NC State. And then at 140, he has them taking Bo Stevens, guard from Iowa. Coz, talk to us about those 2 picks.
Yeah, just position. Like here, I think tight end isn't necessarily a big need, but I do think they've got to address it. I'm not sure, how long Ruckert is going to be on the team, how many more years. And I think they need some depth there behind him and Taylor. So I like tight ends too. They're useful in special teams or right away as rookies and then kind of work their way in. And I just feel like that room doesn't have a lot of depth right now. They've got Mason Taylor, and they've got Jeremy Ruckert, and then they got what's the big guy. Stone Smart's gone. Jelani Woods.
Johnny Woods. Yeah.
Jelani Woods is still here, but he hasn't really played. So they don't have a lot of depth there. Then Stevens, I think guard is still a need, even though they signed Dylan Parham. I think they've got to get some people in the pipeline there for the middle of the offensive line. I know everyone expects them to extend Tippmann at some point, but who knows? Parham probably not going to be a long-term starter here, so I'd like to get someone in the pipeline. And that I took the center from Iowa at one point in another mock draft. That Iowa offensive line won the award as the best offensive line in the country. Yeah. So give me some guys for that Iowa offensive line for the Jets.
Yeah, look, I love that. You had Logan Jones in your previous this spot Logan at 140, Jones. Center from Iowa. Yep. Frankie, what do you think about getting a tight end and a guard here? The two fourth-round picks.
Listen, I like it, man. I just get scared with the name Jolly at tight end for the Jets, Coz. I have nightmares about Doug Jolly.
There's a lot of scars for Jets fans, huh? We just brought up Doug Jolly, Denzel Mims, Stephen Hill, Devin Smith, Elijah Moore.
We're not helping. We're not helping with the comments in the YouTube section when people say you guys are so negative. It's like we're only stating the history of the Jets. That's all we're trying to do right now.
Yeah,
when you say a tight end Jolly, what do you expect me to say?
Fair point.
I will say he grew up in New York City. He played actually high school at New Rochelle, which I'm a little bit biased towards them from Harrison. We used to play against New Rochelle or scrimmage against them quite often. Receiving threat, big body. Would be the Robin. He's like a Robin to Batman kind of tight end, they say, because he's so versatile. His ceiling's like a Jonnu Smith sort of play there. So I like building out a good tight end room, especially for potentially a rookie quarterback next year. A tight end or tight ends are your best friends there. So that'll be important, I think, for the Jets moving forward to build out that room and to build up an offense that can compete in this league, which we haven't had, it seems like, in forever. And then I like Stevens, like to what Coz is saying, that's like O-line U right there. Big boy, tall guard. You're talking 6'5" guard, so he's going to be another tall offensive lineman there with Tippmann on the front line there. Versatile. He can play a few different spots there. Really good base strength, and he's very technically sound as a pass blocker. So he can struggle a little bit with shorter arms, with having a little bit of shorter arms. But not the most rangy guy in space as a guard, but really good technique and like Coz was saying, Iowa had one of the best, or got voted the best offensive line in football, and he was an anchor to what they were doing up front. So, yeah, I love the positional value there. Like you're talking tight end, guard. We just got a receiver. That's how, get players on offense. I mean, like,
let's keep the offense rolling because Coz goes again offense, and this one's interesting. He's got the Jets in the 5th round at pick 179, taking Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. And then he finishes up in the 7th round with Devin Eastern, defensive tackle, Minnesota. And then with the last pick for the Jets at 242, he's got Skylar Thomas, safety from Oregon State. Coz, really talk to me about Drew Aller here in the 5th round for the Jets.
Yeah, I just think at some point they're gonna draft a quarterback day 3. I just, looking at their room right now with Geno, Brady Cook, and Bailey Zappi, I don't know. I think they're going to need to add somebody there. So Aller was a highly touted guy. Obviously, did not quite live up to expectations at Penn State. Big dude, though. I think he fits what Frank Reich likes. Drop back passer. So I could just see them, looking at him as a developmental guy. And they had him in for a workout a few weeks ago. So they're doing their homework on him. So I just think at some point they're going to take a shot. He's the guy that I picked this week for them to do it.
Frankie, Drew Aller as quarterback. What do you think about him?
Man, listen, he's one of the few players that I'm almost reserving judgment on. Again, he's got injury issues that are undisclosed, really, what those were and how those affected him. He missed time, obviously. He is a big body quarterback. He's a big boy, 6'5", but something upstairs doesn't always click with him. But I've seen him on tape make some throws, guys, where he's facing blitz pressure and he's not hesitating for a second and getting into his third reads in the most creative ways possible. So I'm thinking to myself, this guy on one play throws an out that's just completely off base with his technique, and it gets picked off on the sideline. And then literally 3 plays later, he's looking like a taller version of Patrick Mahomes. I don't understand Drew Aller. I think as a project, totally. In the 5th round, I get it. I wouldn't be upset about the pick. In terms of projecting how he'd be, I mean, like, this guy's a 3 to 4 year developmental quarterback, but he's got all the tools that you might be able to get something out of him at that point. But you're going to want some consistency though with your coaching staff to be able to develop him on a year-to-year basis. Because Coz and Ryan, things change in a year or two. Your GM or whomever, your coaches are going to have no allegiance to a 5th round quarterback that just hasn't been able to get on the field. So.
Yeah, look,
I don't hate the pick.
I don't hate the pick either.
It's a good swing.
The raw tools are fascinating with Drew Aller. Big guy, like Coz said. And like you said, he's so inconsistent with his accuracy.
Yeah. Could
they coach him up with Frank Reich? Interesting. I think he obviously go down on the depth chart. Like, it would sit him for a while as a developmental piece. I think I agree with you guys. I think it'd be nice for the Jets to take another swing at a quarterback in the day 3. There's no premium pick here invested in it. The one thing I will ask you,
and most 5th round picks, no matter the position, are going to be gone with a new regime coming. If a new regime comes in, like,
so true.
So it's just totally. At that point of the draft, your hit rate is way low.
I guess my follow-up to all this is, and obviously, guys, check out Coz's mock draft on New York Post Sports Plus. The Jets right now with the current quarterback room with Zappi, Geno, and Brady Cook, I've seen some of and I think you've mentioned this before, Will Levis, because the Titans currently have 4 quarterbacks in that QB room. Is that something the Jets might pull off during the draft? Like, one of those rare, like, hey, this player got traded for one of the Jets, 5th or 7th round picks.
Yeah, the Levis thing during the draft doesn't make as much sense because they already have the quarterback stacked up there. Like, a lot of times what happens is they draft a quarterback, and then all of a sudden the guy they drafted 3 years ago becomes available during the draft, right? Like, that kind of can happen. Years ago with the Jets, they cut Tebow after the draft because they drafted Geno. Actually, that's who the one they drafted. Or when they drafted Sam Darnold, they traded Christian Hackenberg shortly thereafter, like the following week. So it's usually when you draft someone, then to go. So the Titans already feel like they have too many quarterbacks, but I'm sure they're in no rush. Like there's nothing they have to do. So, but Levis makes a lot of sense, and the Salah connection. Obviously, maybe there's some player he likes that you can include in the trade. I'm not sure if Jamie and Sherwood would work. I know that's fans are throwing that one out there, and I get it. You'd have to eat a lot of that salary, I think, to move Sherwood, and Salah would love to have Sherwood, I'm sure, but that's a little tricky. But maybe somebody not quite as getting paid as much could be part of the trade. But yeah, I think they're going to do something before the draft. I mean, Muji said we'll probably add a veteran quarterback before the draft when we talked to him in Arizona. So I still think something's coming there.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting to pay attention to. Frankie, how would you feel about Will Levis being in the Jets quarterback room?
I like the body of work. I think he's got a big arm. He can move around a bunch. He's super athletic for a quarterback. I like that aspect to him. I don't really have an opinion outside of that, though. I would rather probably. I mean, I wanted the kid out of Chicago that I can't get out of my head, man.
Tyson Bagent.
That I haven't been able to say his name right. Yeah. I always wanted that guy, man. I'm just not to. Yeah, I know
the asking price is high.
Yeah, I know. I just wish that kid out because I have a feeling. I mean, I was talking with somebody about this a few days ago, and they were basically saying like, don't be surprised if Caleb Williams doesn't put it together at some point. That Chicago doesn't move off of him because Ben Johnson loves Tyson Bagent that much. They were kind of joking about it, but it's interesting because I think that they do really like Tyson Bagent, and
they do. Yeah.
I would, yeah. So, but with that said, listen, he's a backup quarterback. Will Levis, he's young, so I mean, he's only played 2 years.
Yeah.
He's a big kid, 6'4". So I mean, it's somebody that I'd be fine with.
I think he was the 33rd pick, right?
Yeah, he was
the 33rd pick.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a fun exercise of like right now the Jets fans like the 33rd pick feels like it's gonna be paved in gold, but it just shows you like we're now talking about Will Levis being moved, and the Titans took him 33rd overall not that long ago, so you never know with these draft picks.
You never know. Look, we're a little over 2 weeks away. Coz, we appreciate you making some time and telling us about your mock draft and doing the discussion about Reese versus Bailey. I know it's not going away anytime soon, and we're looking
Two more weeks.
2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. Coz, we appreciate you. Frankie, thank you, buddy. We'll catch you guys next time.